at this point in time, those of you that may not be familiar with the way our town operates this regular monthly meeting, if you'll go to the back of the room, my left, on the table back there is all the paperwork regarding our agenda and the things that we're going to be doing tonight, starting at 7 o'clock, which is right now. So, the first thing I'd like to do, I've had, in the last few months, I've had three people ask me in regards to the way we begin our meetings, whenever it says number one, the invocation, and we start off, have been for a few years now, with a moment of silence instead of a prayer. And I think maybe it would be good for me to explain why we do that, because I'm sure some of you may have wondered why as well. Next door we have a church that is interdenominational, so every Sunday, if you keep going, sooner or later you'll have a preacher there that is your religion, because they have a different religion represented each month. Same thing in town hall. We don't particularly enhance or promote one religion over another. We are a public assembly. So with that, just take a minute and read to you Kim Hibbard, the North Carolina League of Municipalities General Counsel. In the League magazine, she summed it all up with a couple lines. And as soon as I can get to that page, bear with me just a minute. I had a paper clip on it and throw the paper clip on. Okay, here's a summary of her feelings and directions on why we do what we do. The moment of silence has been successfully adopted by a number of local governments and is the safest course of action from a legal standpoint. So that's why we do what we do the way we do it. So I don't see any one of the three people that ask me why we do it that way, but that's why we do it that way. All right, so with that, I ask you to, let's have.
We need the public hearing.
Oh, my God, we already done skipped that, haven't we? All right, I'm having a tough time. I've been out in the sun all afternoon. All right, public hearing, before we call the meeting to order and have our invocation. Public hearing in regards to the flood insurance maps. Mr. Hewitt, are you going to do that?
Attorney Fox is going to help us.
I understand we have had some changes here in the last few minutes. Is that correct?
He's consulting with the attorney.
Those of you that have never been to our meeting, I'm having a terrible night. Some of the rest of us are having a terrible night too. So I understand you've gotten some news in the last few minutes. Mr. Hewitt, you've gotten some news. Mr. Freer, you got some news about the flood map?
I was gonna address this when y'all adopt the agenda, but you do have a public hearing notice. You don't have a public hearing, but when you adopt the agenda, my legal recommendation to the board is going to be to remove items number 9 and number 10 from the agenda, which deal with the flood map. This is a measure twice, measure 3 times before you cut scenario. And there is significant inconsistency across the coastal communities about how they are going about adopting these ordinances. We have the time available to us to make certain that citizens of Holden Beach are not harmed due to a rush to have a public hearing and adopt an ordinance. So my legal recommendation for a variety of reasons is to remove those 2 items from the agenda. We should still have a public hearing tonight. We're gonna have a public hearing again also.
May I ask you a legal question?
Certainly, that's why I'm here.
Why should we have a public hearing on something that we don't know what it is?
Because the town manager has noticed a public hearing, where you're gonna have it, on your pre-agenda item, before before you, at Holden Beach, before you have a adoption of your agenda, you notice a public hearing. That is different than some communities. You can have a public hearing on what is in your packet, but it's gonna be, that you can consider the public comment, but it's going to have no impact on what you eventually adopt on the day that you adopt.
It's a waste of time.
Yes, Your Honor.
Okay. All right. So as we continue to have fun tonight, I am going to declare the beginning of the public hearing. Okay? Does anyone want to come say anything about whatever it is we're supposed to be thinking that might happen? Give us your name, Mr. Wood.
My name is Irvin Woods. My wife and I own two properties at 259 and 289 Ocean Boulevard East. Both properties are currently VE, which stands for very expensive. I don't know what the technical might be, velocity erosion, but the real life activity is it is very expensive. The new maps, which I've been begging, pleading, calling the state, calling my congressmen and senators for 2 years now, and talking to everybody here and everybody in the Princess Board, moves our properties and most of the ones in my neighborhood from VE to AE, which is almost expensive. I don't know the exact amount of savings, but it will be in the thousands of dollars annually for me, and I want y'all to do it right, but do it promptly, and I'm hoping that the August 28th date doesn't slip. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else want to speak to the matter of flood maps? Any comments from the board? If not, I'm going to declare it over with. I guess I need a motion technically.
I move so.
Motion to close, second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Declare the public hearing over with. And now we'll try to start the meeting again. Let us please bow our heads and let's have a moment of silence. All right, thank you very much. And we'll officially call this meeting to order. And I ask that if you cannot hear in the back of the room, if you'll raise your hand, we will try to do a better job in speaking into the microphones. So just raise your hand if you have difficulty in hearing. And at this point in time, I would like to officially, on behalf of the town and the commissioners and the staff and the property owners, to welcome all of you to this meeting. And let's just all stand and pledge allegiance to the flag, which is to my right. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Number 4 on the agenda, consideration of approving the agenda as presented. Is there a motion?
As requested by the attorney, to recommend removing 9 and 10 from the agenda.
Yeah,
Agree.
agreed.
Okay, well, we can all agree on it. Let's have a motion to,
I move that 9 and 10 be deleted.
I second.
okay, so we've got a motion to delete 9 and 10. All in favor of the motion to delete 9 and 10, say aye.
Aye.
All right, so now I need a motion to approve the amended agenda.
Motion to approve?
Second?
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say no. It's unanimously approved. And now number 5, approval of the minutes. May 3rd minutes. You want to do these individually or collectively?
You do them collectively.
Any issues
All
with
right.
collectively?
Yeah, I have none.
So, all right, so we, a motion to approve all 3. Second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say no. So all the A, B, and C stand approved, Madam Clerk, as presented. And number 6 on the agenda is public comments on agenda items. This is an opportunity for anyone in the audience to speak to any item that is on the agenda. Now, later on in the meeting, you will have an opportunity to speak about anything you want to. But right now, it's only an opportunity for you to address an item that is on the agenda. So if you want to speak to an agenda item, if you'll raise your hand and let me recognize you and come to the podium on my right, give us your name and address and speak to an agenda item. Anyone?
No one signed
Seeing and hearing
up.
no.
No one signed up.
No one signed up. Alrighty, we're on number 7. Mr. Clemens? Talk about our sewer system. You've been out in the sun too, huh? Mr. Clemens is the head of all of our utilities in the town. Does a great job, he and his staff.
Thank you. Vacuum sewer system number 4, pump station number 4 upgrades. Get this thing to cooperate. Starting off with the finances, when we started this project, we had $1,413,000 set aside to do that with. We had a special meeting on 5/23/2018, and had to do a budget amendment for the amount of $283,000. That's not too far. Today, we paid 4 invoices, and we actually have one in process, put us at a total of 5. Kind of backtracking a little bit, when we put this thing out for bids, we've actually ended up doing it twice. We bid it the first time, and we didn't have 2 responsive bidders.
3? We required 3, you only had 2, right?
Well, we had 2, exactly right, but we have had to do it again, and we still only had 2 the next time. Bids come in a little higher than we anticipated. That was the reason for the budget amendment of $283,000 on 5/23/18 Board of Commissioners awarded contract to TA London for the construction of pump station number 4 upgrade. The only thing we have, additional information I have today is we have a scheduled pre-construction meeting on the 28th of June, and at that time, I may be able to get a hand around when we're actually gonna start. I'm hoping it'll be within a few days of that.
So
But
that's,
subject to change.
so that's not tentative any longer, that's set, that 28th meeting?
Yes,
Okay,
yeah.
good.
But as far as, the date they like to mobilize and start construction, I'll give you a report as that proceeds. I'm hoping it'll be in a few days, because you can see that is a pretty tight timeline laid out there. And so far, we've had to juggle up some days on the beginning of it, but it's still showing projected completion date by the end of February, and that's what we're shooting for. Try to do my best to answer any questions if you got any, and as we proceed forward, maybe this will get to be a little more exciting news. Maybe I can have some nice pictures or something to look at other than some numbers on the wall there.
Sounds good.
Thanks for the update.
Thank you, Mr. Clemens. Chief Wally Lane, police report.
Good evening, everyone.
Evening.
Typical summer so far. We managed to survive Memorial Day and the first few concerts without any major incidents, which is good. No major crime problems at the moment, which is also good. Our new officer is now on board and doing his field training. Shouldn't take him long. He's got 14 years of experience elsewhere, so he'll come along pretty quickly. Again, I say, don't leave valuables in your car, and don't leave your vehicles unlocked. Because typically, this is vehicle break-in season. We had a rash, but that was early on. Since we arrested that entrepreneur, we haven't had any more so far, but that doesn't mean we won't. But so far, so good. And it is hurricane season, so make sure you all have your plans in place. Even though there hasn't been any
questions?
Mayor,
Yeah.
I understand there was a car stolen on Swordfish. The gentleman left his keys in the car, and a GPS was stolen out of another vehicle. Did you catch the guy?
Yes, that was the gentleman that was doing the car break-ins at the time. And he made it 2 days, and we did arrest him along with recovering the stolen vehicle and the property that he had previously taken. So he's currently at the Crossbar Hotel and no longer with us.
Anyone else? Thank you, Chief.
Yes, sir.
Mr. Evans,
Nope,
You took him off?
no, 9 and 10.
we're not going to listen to him tonight at all?
No.
I'm sorry, Mr. Evans.
Down to 11.
Yeah, page 25.
So 9 and 10's gone. Number 11, Mr. Clemens, you're the show tonight.
You're it.
What's in your packets on page 25, what we're talking about here is last year, House Bill 436, passed, also named Southern Water and Sewer System Development Fee Act. It set forth standards and limitations for the town may adopt a system development fee for water and sewer. Some of the rules that were required, required a system development fee be established only after a written analysis by a professional engineer was performed. The town retained McGill and Associates to perform an analysis, and that was done. McGill delivered a report to the town, so we've got that. The audit committee reviewed it, and had no comments. I haven't received any comments from the public or anything, heard anything negative. The report was posted on the town website as required, and all of the conditions have been met. So we need to adopt resolution 1804. It's pretty much a requirement that you have to have that in order before July the 1st, this upcoming year. I think that's what was happening. I think a lot of places are actually doing some shady stuff with some fees and stuff like that. So anything that you do now, you actually have to have a written report from an engineer, and you got to have a mathematical formula to back it up, and that money's got to go where it's intended to go to.
I move that we adopt Resolution 1804, resolution adopting the System Development Fees Report.
May I just make, there's one typographical correction that needs to be made. The last now therefore be it resolved. Resolved is misspelled. Sorry, I just see things like that. Otherwise, I agree it should be adopted.
This is actually adopting just the report, correct?
Is that the motion? Is adopt the report
Second.
as amended and corrected? All right. Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say no. It's unanimously passed. Continue, Mr. Clemens.
Discussion and possible approval of resolution 1805, resolution amending the fee.
We're on number 12 on your agenda.
Appreciation for the town of Holden Street. Actually, what this is actually approving the fee schedule that's laid out in the year report. We go into it in great detail. If I can answer any questions anybody's got any.
If I could point out in paragraph 6 on attachment 1, it should read water and sewer. Right now, it only reads sewer capacity charges. That should read water and sewer capacity charges.
Everybody got that?
Yes.
Okay. All right, is there a motion?
I move that Resolution 1805, resolution amending the Holden Beach fee schedule be approved
As
as
amended.
amended.
Okay. Is there a
Second.
Any more discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
It's unanimous, Madam Clerk.
Yeah, things are going quickly, but there was a lot of work from the town and beforehand. Yep.
Mr. Hewitt, number 13.
Yes, sir. The ordinance that's before you tonight has been prepared in accordance with the board's direction last week to do two things: to reinsert the 2 cents into the tax rate and to move those 2 cents equivalent over to the beach capital reserve fund, and two, to step down or back out the 3% merit pool out of the admin salary line. So those two things have been accomplished in the ordinance that's in front of you.
Okay, good.
Is there a motion?
Motion to accept the ordinance 1810 as presented.
Second?
Have a motion and a second. Floor is open for discussion.
I'd like to have a little discussion.
All right.
Okay. As Mr. Hewitt just pointed out, when the budget message was issued, there was a 2-cent reduction in the current tax rate from 22 cents to 20 cents. That reduction was based on the fact that the 22-cent tax rate resulted from the Central Reach project. In order to finance the Central Reach project when it was proposed, we had to raise taxes 7 cents. The prior board had to raise taxes 7 cents. After that budget was accepted, fortuitously or unfortuitously, Hurricane Matthew came through and did extensive damage to the beach. As a result of that damage, FEMA awarded over $4 million to the town of Holden Beach to fix the damage that was created by Hurricane Matthew. That damage coincided with the Central Reach project, and in effect, that $4 million reduced the cost of the Central Reach project by $4 million. So from that point on, I thought that it was appropriate that the people who footed the bill would get a reduction in their taxes. Obviously, the town manager agreed with that because that was what the budget proposal or the budget message contained. After discussion, that 2-cent tax reduction was taken out. And in effect, we have now more money in our B part than we had before the Central Reach program because we placed $3 million. One of the things we did was take $3 million from that $4 million and put it into the nourishment of the beach. Set aside capital budget, it's there. That left us over $750,000 with which we could reduce the taxes by $250,000 this year. Clearly, there's a difference of opinion here, but I would just like the people of the town to be able to decide which way they would like to go in the future. Do you want to allocate all the money that we have, or do we want to give back money to the people who have accepted the duty and the burden of paying this extra taxes? Some of us thought that the money that would be returned was pretty insignificant and said it was only going to be $100 on a typical $500,000 house. I would ask you to look at it a little differently. It would be a 2-cent reduction from a 7-cent increase, which is a 28% reduction in the new tax rate. To me, that's a little bit more striking than $100. So I just put it out there for your information and hope that everybody takes a little bit more interest in the things that go on in this town when it comes to taxing and expenditures. Thank you.
I have a few things to say. The federal FEMA uses the word reimbursements. They don't give us anything. They reimburse us after an event. So that was a reimbursement that, and everybody, I hope, knows what that means. We spent the money and we were getting reimbursed for what we had spent. Part of that is an extra $1 million of sand that was put on for Central Reach that was, again, that sand, Central Reach we're estimating would last 10 years. I don't think it's going to last 10 years because $1 million of it was eroded from Matthew. The second thing I would like to say is the bond that we're paying, the $12 million for Central Reach, because we had it was $15 million bill. We had $3 million that we put down from B-Part fund. We are at 7%, we're getting from both the general fund and the B-Part fund. So we are taking money from B-Part every month or every year to pay part of that Central Reach bond. So it's not just that 7 cents. We're taking B-Part funding every year on top of that 7 cents. And the third thing I'd like to say is we are not adequately funding our general fund balance up to this point. We are making some progress, but very, very small progress. And we are not adequately funding our B-Part fund balance for what we all know is the maintaining of the beach of our Central Reach for I would estimate 8 years, 10 years from now. We don't want to be in a position, again, to have very little funding for a sand event that we know is coming. So we're trying to correct some things that were, I think, done improperly because not looking down the road. I'm not saying we should fund the entire thing because it should be a balance of people that are enjoying it now and people that in the future. So I think we should at least strive for a 50% savings. So if it costs us $15 million, this Central Reach, I'd estimate it'd probably be $20 million. So we, as a group, asked for a 10-year, $10 million sand fund so we aren't left with nothing in the future like we were, or very little, with $3 million, very little like we were in the past. Thank you.
Just in response to that, it's good to set goals, and it's good to have aspirations, but if you do the math, the simple math, if we want to get $10 million in that fund in another 7 years, that means we're going to have to raise the taxes $1 million a year. And if you do the math, that's 8 cents more. We just raised the taxes 7 cents. So in effect, to reach the goal, we would have had to double our taxes from what it was before the Central Reach project began. Now, I'm all in favor of being prepared. Nobody here is suggesting that we not be prepared. But what I'm saying is we need to set realistic goals, and we need to let you know exactly what you're paying for. Thank you.
And part of that realistic goals is we have loans, we have debt that's being rolled off that we should come closer to that goal, but I guess I'm a little confused if you set a goal and you just don't even bother trying to get any money, or you just, strive for what you can.
Well, again, and this will be my last comment. Last year, the then sitting board set a goal of accumulating $80,000 into the B-Part fund, increasing the B-Part fund by $80,000. To me, that seemed like a realistic goal. All of a sudden, we put $3 million in, and that's not enough. That's not enough to allow the people to get a tax reduction. The math doesn't work with me.
And this is my last. That $3 million was a transfer. There was zero money from the B-Part being from the tax of the current year. So there was no money being put into that sand fund except for a one-time transfer that will not be available again.
Any more discussion?
Well, I guess the only comment that I have, and I've said it before and I'll say it again, is that, the Beach Renourishment and Inlet Management Fund, and the reason why we put the money in there, that we talk about the Central Reach project, we talk about it's not until 2026 until that debt is paid off. So it's on each and every one of our backs. We get no help from the outside. And anybody sitting here thinking that Central Reach number 2 is not right around the corner, I'd rather be prepared. I'd rather have some cushion to go to, and it's not even a cushion. It's, if we went out to borrow more money, 3 years from now, 2 years from now, 4 years from now, which we would have to do, at least let's build this fund so we can tap this fund. And that's where the $241,000 went to, into the fund. Thank you.
Are you saying that if
No.
I'm sorry, ma'am, I'm sorry, we can't, that's all right. You can address your concerns at the time whenever you can come to the podium later on in the minutes, and later on in the meeting. Any more commissioner comments? I have a question from our financial department. The question that I asked about 2 months ago was the attorney, our environmental attorney, in the regular monthly meeting, I asked if we had expended about $30,000 in payment. How much have we paid the environmental attorney so far in the first 5 months of this year? And where is any money in that budget? Because I'm of the opinion that we've spent about $50,000 in 5 months for that environmental attorney, and I'm just wondering if that is in the budget or not, or are we gonna continue that?
That's pretty close without checking, to be exact, but you're pretty close with 50. In the existing budget, we didn't know exactly what to think of in terms of what to expect for the environmental attorney. There is a line item, Christy and I were talking about this today, in the B part fund that talks about, on page 10, about halfway down the B part expense line item, it's called Professional Services Beach. That's line item is $15,000, but it includes non-beach monitoring type surveys, any residual permit required monitoring, and I have here's an explanation from our Central Reach project that we'd have to do the critter counts and the Sea Beach Amaranth, and then any post-storm engineering services that we would have to do in order to file for FEMA reimbursements, plus any legal expenses that would be a result of the environmental attorney. Probably woefully inadequate if we were to experience the type of expenses for the environmental attorney that we did that was associated with the terminal growing process. But I don't know what to anticipate.
Is he still on the payroll, or is?
He's the board's environmental attorney.
Yeah. He hasn't billed us in any activity in.
It's been
quite a
about a
while.
month.
Yeah.
It's been about a month.
Since we resolved the terminal groin issue.
I think there was one follow-up final bill that
Yeah.
was the capstone on that.
So, but my question was, is there any money in the budget in case you were to decide to continue his services? Where would that money, where in the budget would that money come from?
We would have to amend the budget.
There is no money.
Pardon me?
There is no money.
No money appropriated for that. So it's gotta come from somewhere else. Okay, I just was concerned that if we're popping $10,000 a month for that, kinda got my antennas up.
Yeah, that was related to the terminal groin, Mr. Mayor. That's a whole different subject. And I'd be glad to talk about that if you'd like to, but I don't think we should.
Well, I just wanted to know if he was still on the payroll. All right, any more discussion? All right, you ready to vote?
Yes, sir.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say no.
No.
4-1, Madam Clerk. Mayor Pro Tem was a nay vote. Thank the staff and commissioners for working hard on that. That's something every year is extremely difficult and time-consuming. Thank you for your hard work. Number 14, Ms. Fennell.
You guys interviewed the people who were available today. There are still 2 other people who are interested but not able to attend, which was Dean Thomas and Rhonda Dixon. I put a ballot in front of you if you choose to vote that way, or you could vote whatever way you guys choose.
What's the pleasure of the board?
Just vote it.
Complete
Ballot.
By ballot.
We have a ballot.
All righty. Fill out your ballot. Vote for 5 of those on the list, and Madam Clerk will pass the ballots down to you for your official count. The mayor does not vote.
Oops. I'm sorry.
Do you want us to move ahead, or would you like for us to wait?
Oh, you can move ahead.
All right. Number 15. You want us to skip over that and come back to you?
Oh, is it my turn again? I'll go really quick and then, sorry. Each year, there's a bunch of vacancies on the boards that expire. Most of the terms that are expiring this year are eligible to, serve again, if you guys would like to do so. If you would like, I can contact the people and make sure that they are interested to serve again, and then if we do need to advertise, I'll advertise and we can schedule another meeting for 6:45 at the next board meeting. If that
Sounds
works
good
for
to
you
me.
guys.
That'll work.
All right.
Ms. Pat?
I started a couple months ago with the suggested rules of procedure document that was the official document coming from the state, trying to compare and meld the existing town of Holden Beach suggested rules of procedure for the Board of Commissioners, to make a document that included both the intent of the existing town's procedures and incorporated into what was a more exhaustive and more complete document that was the recommendation at the state level. So I have included a little cheat sheet of what changed and did not change in the suggested rules of procedure document that came from the state. I've tried to, wherever possible, keep language that seemed to be clear to the more average reader, but in certain cases, I kept what was in the state recommended document after discussing with our town attorney, because there were certain legal niceties in the wording that really shouldn't be changed, and I can appreciate that. I think some of the changes that everybody can focus on and keep in mind, because of course we are obligated, if we approve a document such as this, we as the board are to follow these suggested rules of procedure. That's why we have them. And some of the things that we have that's important is that we are a town that chose to have an executive secretary. And in Rule 13, there is more clarification about the procedures to be followed by commissioners, town clerk, and executive secretary on creating an agenda for meetings. And there are also specific days that are associated with activities, days before a Board of Commissioners meeting, and when the agenda packet will be released to the commissioners and the public. There's also in Rule 15, there were some things that were put in to sort of blend agenda items from members of the public as well as public address of the board, and much of that came from the existing Town of Holden Beach ordinance. So I have pretty much just taken what has been in place for 2 years and created a substantial section of how we proceed. In addition, in Rule 36, in Rule 30 and 31, we actually put in some time limits for debate, which surprisingly we had never had in place, even though almost every other town and the sort of globally suggested document does recommend to have them. So we now will have, if this is acceptable to everybody, we'll have some time limits for debate as well. And we will also have an increase for our public comments, that speakers will be given 3 minutes but may request up to 6 minutes at time of sign-up if they know that 3 minutes will not be adequate, because I know there have been some comments in the past that 3 minutes are not enough. So those are sort of the major, what I consider to be the major changes that we've put into this global document. I know it's a rather long document. Believe me, I know it's a rather long document because I've put together 2 documents now. But I am happy if anybody has any specific questions to try to answer, or if you don't want to ask them right now and you want a chance to read it and ask later, you could always ask at the next meeting as well.
Nope.
And if anybody on the board has any comments or questions, please, let's address them if you're ready now, because again, we've all been waiting for this document for a couple months.
May I? Yep.
Sure.
I recommend that on Rule 2, Part 2, Rule 2, the quorum, that after the words constitutes a quorum, we add the sentence, "A quorum exists when 3 or more commissioners are present with or without the mayor." And I've clarified that.
Your town ordinance defines quorum, so your suggested rules of procedure can't change that. You have to amend your ordinance, which would require, I think, that's part of your charter also.
So is this just stating the town ordinance?
The town ordinance does say 3 commissioners or 3 commissioners and the mayor.
So that's,
It should be consistent with the town
Right.
ordinance.
and it is,
Okay.
that is. So what I recommended is consistent with the town ordinance, that a quorum exists when 3 or more commissioners are present with or without the mayor.
You want that sentence added?
Yeah, I would add that after constitutes a quorum.
Okay.
Am I,
I mean, technically, you don't even need it because
You don't
it's,
need to
it's,
couple it,
it's
but-
in the
Yeah.
ordinance, so either way, you're just repeating it then, that's fine. Is that all right? Okay. Yeah, my only comment is, I know it's a lot of work, thanks, Pat. I know it was a lot of work.
Well, now I'm very familiar with the document because I've been through it so many
Yeah,
times.
Thank you.
well done.
Yeah, I like having it as a reference document too. I don't have to go on to someplace else and look for it. I have it. Well done.
What's the pleasure of the board?
So I think the intent was, there's no action, I think you wanted to let us, and the community absorb this, and then maybe next meeting, we're going to have an action to accept it? Is that,
That was sort of my intent, because I know people might like a chance to read this carefully.
Okay.
And do we then adopt this officially as our ordinance? Or it's just in our book of, it's in our book of ordinance.
You would adopt it by resolution, wouldn't you?
Yeah, we usually do it by resolution. It doesn't actually go in the code book. It's a separate document. So
Okay.
I could just draft up a resolution accepting your changes if you guys would like to do so.
Okay.
Sounds good.
Then I would propose that next time we can examine having this accepted by resolution, and that will give everybody enough time to look at it, and if they have any additional questions or changes, to speak their mind.
Sounds good.
So in simple terms, you want it on the agenda for the next meeting.
Yes.
Any more comment?
No.
Yes.
Okay. Number 17, Ms. Ferguson, our Assistant Town Manager.
Good evening. July is National Parks and Recreation Month, widely celebrated effort that people get behind and cheer about. And since we do have the park grand opening for our park across the street, it seemed fitting for this year to be the time we embrace that. So this resolution is for the town of Holden Beach to recognize Park and Recreation Month in the town of Holden Beach. Resolution 1806. And as such, that resolution plans to be read if it's passed at the park grand opening.
Remind us again what that date is?
July 10th at 1 o'clock.
Okay. Sounds good.
We require a motion.
Yeah.
Yeah, is there a motion?
Yeah, I make a motion, we accept Resolution 1806, designation of July as Park and Recreation Month.
Second.
Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say no. Well done. Thank you, ma'am. Town Manager's report.
Yes, sir. Very briefly, want to report that the Marlin and Board Street paving is finished, along with the Point West Tide Ridge Drive drainage fixes that we've been working on for a while now. Those fixes are in, we do have some residual swale maintenance that we've got to do. If we get a little bit of west wind, it dries out a bit, we'll be able to get that done fairly quickly. Scotch Bonnet, just seems like this month has been storm drainage fix month instead of July being Parks and Rec month, which is water runoff month. On the northern end of Scotch Bonnet, we've got some drainage pipe work there also complete that should help out a small situation in that location. Speaking of Scotch Bonnet, at the spoil site there on the northeast side of Scotch Bonnet, where the dog park is co-located adjacent to, we've had some activity down there doing some surveying and prep work for the probable use of that area as the dredge material placement location for our canal dredging project in the upcoming fall and winter. That's primarily driven by recent Corps of Engineers policy changes that will impact the town's, potentially impacting the town's ability to use our historic placement areas in other locations. So this is Plan B. Some of you may have been inconvenienced by having to close the dog park when we had some pieces of heavy equipment out there. But that's what we've been doing. Recycle subscriptions, along the lines of the canal dredging project, I just want to point out, remind the board that on the orders of magnitude of scale, project, moving parts, expense, we've had a lot of visibility on our sewer lift station project on the west end, Lift Station 4. Just want to point out that although I've heard comments that that canal dredging project takes care of itself, it's far from it. That project's about $2.5 million. It affects almost 9 miles of property along those canals. It's 50,000 linear feet of waterfront property, a lot of moving parts, heavy equipment, $2.5 million. It's everywhere as big as that sewer lift station with a potential impact quite a number more people than the lift station upgrade. Needless to say, we don't want to mess either one of them up, but that project is getting ready to kick off here in the late summer and early fall, and we're going to be working on that one real hard too. Recycle subscriptions are up to 450. Now, is that cans or subscribers? I don't know, but the latest number, previously we were using 377, and as of earlier in the week, it's up to 450, which surprised me a little bit. But now I don't know what the split is on those homeowners or rentals, but we'll run that to earth too. In case you've seen the fire hydrants that look like they've had the tops blown off of them with the water going everywhere, Chris has been wrapping up the flushing exercise for the water mains. There's a chlorine residual whenever those change on an annual basis. That's taking place, so that's what that's all about. And that's all I have for tonight.
Any questions of Mr. Hewitt? Hearing none, mayor's comments are going to be short tonight. In regards to flood insurance, I built a house. We just finished at 256 McCray Street. Flood insurance was to be over $6,000 a year. And thank goodness on August the 28th, it goes to $1,200. That's hard to believe, that much change at that location. We're in hurricane season, and we will be making all of you aware more of that as we get further into later in the summer. We'll be providing information and guidance and offering opportunities for helping you plan your activities in case we were to be unfortunate enough to have a visit from a hurricane. So just to let you know, we have not forgotten that, and we will be forthcoming in a timely fashion. Nothing excitingly new or different this year in the way we will approach the hurricane season. Just keep praying to the good Lord to bless us and keep improving your plans, and we'll get through another year. And we've been mighty, mighty fortunate in the recent years. I'm going to ask for a volunteer to help me open the box in the corner over there. I need somebody with some strong hands and arms to open that for me. Bring it around the front, please. Do we have a volunteer, Mr. Morowitz, since you're a turtle man? John, you're a turtle man?
I'm gonna say, I went to a funeral today, my arms are wore out.
While he's opening that box, those of you that have been attending the meetings of recent months may recall that I had addressed at one time a gift that was forthcoming to the town from Mr. I hope I get this pronunciation correctly, Whittiger. And if you will, Mr. Tony, pull that out and let's let everybody take a look at what this thing looks like. And
Oh, wow, looks good.
this is a gift to the town, and it's going to be the town's responsibility to decide what and how to display this very, very well done bronze turtle. So I don't know what we're going to do with it, but Commissioners, I guess ultimately it's your decision, along with the committees that you assign the responsibility to. But this is a very expensive, custom, well-done piece of artwork. So the family that is donating this is a property owner here on Holden Beach, and we will be recognizing them in the near future and giving an opportunity for a recognition of the family and an opportunity for us to express our appreciation, because this is very nice, very nice. So stay tuned for a later update on this, and I hope all of you appreciate it as much as I do, and others that will see it and enjoy it in the future. So with that, we will continue to pass along our appreciation to the family as we move forward to finding it a home. Okay? All righty. Mr. Mayor Pro Tem?
I would just like to thank the other commissioners for all the hard work they did on the budget. We started working on this early. This was my first time going through the process. I got to learn a lot. I appreciate all the hard work they did, and I appreciate the give and take that we had while we were going through it. Secondly, I'd like to compliment the town. I drive up and down the streets here. I go on the beach. I'm impressed every day by the condition of the town, by the work that the people do, by the Parks and Rec, by everybody. And it's only right that you get a little pat on the back every once in a while. You deserve it. So thank you. And of course, thank everybody who comes here to these meetings, because that's why we're here. We're here to do what you wish us to do, what you hope we can do, and to do it to the best of our ability. Thank you.
Ms. Pat?
I agree with Mike that I really appreciate the town staff walking some of us newbies through the budget process, and the amount of rework that happened at times because of all of our questions and our working through the process. One of the things working through this has shown me is that there's going to have to be a few extra meetings as we try to hammer out some planning for next year. Now that we've been through this once, I think we can see where certain areas need some more investigation. So I'll probably be asking for more special meetings in a few of the months of this year, and I look forward to everybody's participation in those, as well as our Tuesday night meetings. Thank you.
Joe?
I'd like to thank everybody for attending this evening. Great to see a number of people come out on such a hot day, and I look forward to going back out in the heat again. I'd also like to thank the candidates that are here this evening, that have expressed their interest in the Inlet and Beach Protection Board. Thanks again. And I'd like to thank the town staff for all the additional budget work and answering our questions. The last message that I saw with the management summary report, that helped me to get to the numbers quickly, and I appreciate that. And I also look forward to starting the process earlier next year. Thank you.
John?
I recognize some new faces tonight. Hopefully you're permanent residents and you're potential board members of the future. We had 7 or 8 or 9 people step up this time. We have 3 major boards. Now we have 4 major boards. A lot of people on the island participate. Some of them have monthly meetings, some of other, they do a lot of work, a lot of research. Parks and Recs, Planning and Zoning, the Board of Adjustment, and now the Inlet and Beach Management. Big jobs, takes time, takes dedication, but I hope that some of you who haven't done it before will step up and be willing to take your shot and contribute to the work of the boards. It helps the Board of Commissioners a lot to have that kind of support. The other thing with the Turtle, I'm in love with the Turtles. I'm a Saturday morning rider. My wife's a Thursday morning rider. So we're up at 4 on the beach before 5, looking for her tracks on the beach. As of today, we have 13 nests spread from 4 of them are east of the pier, 2 are east of here, and 2 are between here and the pier. and the rest are toward the west end all the way to about 1095 or something like that. But, so 13 at about 13 false crawls. So that's the status of the laying so far this season. Hopefully more are coming.
You want to tell about the program here in Town Hall?
Yep. In fact, tomorrow night at 7 o'clock is a turtle talk, if you aren't aware of that. We hold it during the summer months. I, in fact, will be the facilitator tomorrow night. It's about an hour-long program that goes through a lot of information about the turtles. Good video, good slideshow on it. The head of the North Carolina division and our president is Tony Marwitz, and has been for more than 2 or 3 years, 20 years, not quite, 10 years, been our president, and our Pat Cusack, who is our North Carolina coordinator, and probably 4 or 5 of his assistant coordinators will be here tomorrow night to answer questions for you. It would be in this room. If you want a seat, I suggest you come early because the numbers are increasing. We had 125 last week. I guess we'll have 175, 180 tomorrow night. So hopefully, if have you not seen the program and you have a chance, come by and say hi, take a look at it, and enjoy our turtles on the beach. If you're out at night and you see a mom laying her eggs on the beach, you give a call to our stranding phone, and a group will come and watch her and see if she lays them and try to follow it up the next morning. It's possible you will see that. I was asked, I'm on a stranding team, and last year, within 24 hours, I saw 4 moms lay her eggs on the beach. And if you want tears in your eyes, come and watch a mama turtle crawl her way up that beach, lay 120 eggs in the dirt, cover them up, and get back in the ocean in about an hour and 15 minutes. It's a pleasure. It's part of Holden Beach. I think the people I talk to, half of them come because it's a family beach. The other half come because they love to play with the turtles. They watch the births, watch the mom lay her eggs. It's a great part of the beach, and I love it.
Mr. Freer?
I too appreciate all the effort from the board members and the staff related to putting the budget together. And this is kind of an unusual meeting. It's 8 o'clock, but most of the agenda items were like the budget. A lot of work went into, and months of work went into several of these agenda items that were really just putting a bow on and voting on. So it's kind of unusual from that standpoint. But thank you.
Okay, it's time to announce the, I was about to say winners, I guess. With all the work that's ahead of them, I guess they'll decide whether they were the winners. The Board of Commissioners have made the decision to appoint Vicki Myers, Mike Pearson, Richard Rice, Dean Thomas, and Rhonda Dixon to the board. Congratulations to all of you. And we will have a public comment period. Listen to any one of you that want to talk about whatever you want to talk about. If you'll raise your hand and be recognized, come to the podium on my right, speak into the microphone, give us your name, and let us hear what's on your mind. Does not have to be an agenda item. Anyone? Anything, agenda item or not? Surely somebody's got something to fuss about or brag about. Last call.
Yeah, I will. This is not an agenda item, but I want to add something to what John said. If you see a turtle on the beach, please call us. Otherwise, turn your lights on. Last year, we've had one leatherback. It was about 700 pounds, it's 6 foot tall. We've had one in the history of the turtle patrol. We had another one last year, and somebody scared it off by taking pictures. So if you see one, call us, but please, please do not shine a light, do not take pictures. Thank you. Yes, oh, I'm sorry.
Mr. Marwitz, this lady has a,
For me?
I have a question for you. I don't want to skip. So, I'm new to the island, and we're gonna start running a home, but do you have like a flyer or anything laminated that we could put on the refrigerator?
Should be on every rental home, On the refrigerator, there's a red magnet approximately this big. It says turtles love the dark, don't shine lights on them, and gives you our number. If you don't have one, or you've never been involved, come tomorrow night to the Turtle Talk, we'll give you a magnet.
All right. Are we done with the public comments? All right, if we are, let's talk about number 22 on the agenda. Madam Clerk?
Executive session pursuant to North Carolina General Statute 143-318-11A3 to consider the performance of an employee.
Is there a motion we go into executive session as the clerk read?
So moved.
Mr. Fletcher's made the motion.
Second.
Joe is second. Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All right, the commissioners are gonna go into executive session upstairs in the meeting room and have no idea how long it's gonna take. You're welcome to stay and wait.